It's recording.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Mr. Yakowski. I'd like to call our meeting to order. This is the Waters Elementary Local School Council. This is our November regular meeting. It's November 27th, 2023. We're going to get started at 5:33 p.m. We'll begin with our roll call in no particular order. Dan Morris.
I'm here.
Liz Chandran.
Here.
Jason Rieger.
Here.
Nathan Hunter.
Here.
Brian Stockmaster.
Here.
Stuart Lang, that's me. Katie Carey emailed them to say she would not be able to make it today. Kristen Quinn.
Here.
Peggy Balish.
Here.
Aaron Soto.
Here.
Mark Williams.
Here.
Peter Rakowski.
Here.
And John McNally. Thank you, everyone. Next item, approval of agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as published?
I actually have a quick question
Sure.
on the agenda. Given that I'm guessing that some of the public comments are going to be about things that are coming up in new business,
Yes.
could we move public comments limited to 2 minutes apiece? Up.
The section 8. Two sections.
If anybody
So
came-
there's an initial section that was available. I believe we had one individual that wanted to make a comment. Would you prefer to make your comment prior at the first section?
I would appreciate that, yeah.
I'm willing to make an exception for that.
All right, move that we do
Is
that.
anybody opposed to that? Alright.
It's not going to limit this section.
Doesn't
We're not
matter.
gonna-
I just want to
we're
give
not
people
gonna
a chance
remove
to
item
speak
8.
before we.
Happy to allow you to speak first. What's your name for the record?
My name is Brenna. Brenna Moss.
Brenna Mox.
Moss.
Got it.
Yeah, Brenna Moss.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, I think that's fine. So with that exception, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You can pick who to give the second to. so.
Thanks. Got it.
Approval of minutes from the October meeting. I made a couple minor changes. I think you saw this. Thank you so much. Sorry for doing that so late.
It's okay.
Does anybody have comments on the minutes from October?
Didn't see the change.
I always like spelling corrections, like minor stuff. Okay.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Those will be posted. Thank you. Okay, on to public comment. We had a number of public comments emailed in advance today. So I have those listed out. Our first commenter is Adrian Phil. If you would like to remain seated or stand or do whatever you'd like to make yourself comfortable, that's fine. I'd like to remind all commenters that comments are limited to 2 minutes. So, floor is yours.
It is a little weird sitting down, so I guess I understand. So I submitted my public comment. Has everybody had a chance to read it?
Yes.
I got 2 minutes now. So I brought up the concern that the school is leasing their facility to Lincoln Square Presbyterian Church, which discriminates against people based on sexual orientation. So they will not marry people of the same sex. They won't baptize children if they have queer parents. I'm not here to fight with ingrained religious discrimination. What I'm trying to bring up is the concern and the harm that we can cause when we have them within our walls and the school, and inadvertently we're approving them, giving them a water stamp of approval. So my concern is with my 2 children that are here, and then also children that I work with at my gym and parents that I know. And Waters has to be very cautious about the people that they align themselves with. And I think that in this type of environment, we have to take it really, really seriously. So I'm asking for more consideration to be taken into this lease. I'm asking for more advocacy and also a stronger message when it comes to supporting all of our kids, no matter who they are, who they love, or what gender they identify with. And so that's kind of my last point. I never talked to like the circle. Thank you. Time runs.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you.
Given that we do have a new business item that is related to this topic, I'm going to propose that we just kind of wait to discuss this until everybody is done and we go to that item. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Our next commenter is Kate Doyle.
Hi, everyone. So I'm a community member and a future Waters parent. We have a almost 2-year-old. And it came to my attention that Waters does rent space to the Lincoln Square Presbyterian Church. And while I really appreciate that the Waters community has families from all sorts of backgrounds, including diverse faiths, I'm particularly concerned about the school continuing to rent to the LSPC due to its explicit stance that Adrian mentioned on rejecting the LGBTQ community and the rights of the church. I personally believe that every congregation has the right to gather and celebrate their faith, even if their views are different from my own. However, I don't believe that in a public, taxpayer-funded space like our local public school, faith community should be hosted if they practice discriminatory beliefs and cannot pass a really simple litmus test, in my opinion, which is recognizing the marriages of same-gender couples. As I get ready to send my son Arthur to Waters in a couple of years, it's really important to me that I'm sending him to a school that is inclusive and safe. We have many gay, lesbian, and trans family members and friends, and it's with those loved ones in mind that I'm here today. And I think this could be something that might feel easy to brush aside, but I really urge everyone to consider the seriousness of this matter and the message that it sends to our young people. According to a recent school climate survey, the vast majority of LGBTQ students in Illinois have heard regularly anti-LGBTQ remarks from students and staff.
You have 15 seconds.
And
Sorry.
according to the Trevor Project, 45% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered suicide in the last year, but school community really makes a difference. LGBTQ youth who found that their school to be affirming reported lower rates of attempting suicide. I have 2 more sentences.
Time's
Is that
up.
okay?
Time's up. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You may say your final 2 sentences.
Okay. Okay. So I just really believe that there's so much work as a school community to be done to support our LGBTQ youth and families. But this one feels like an easy one to me, which is terminating the contract, the rental contract with the church, and not using our public school space to host a faith community unless they can demonstrate an inclusive culture towards LGBTQ community members. I think that how we show up on issues like this really matters, and that our kids are going to notice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next commenter is Dana Doherty, who I believe is also a great person. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dana Doherty. I have 3rd grader, 1st grader here at Waters. Good evening, LC members. I'm here tonight because I'd like you guys to terminate the school's relationship with the Lincoln Square Presbyterian Church, the church that actively discriminates against members of the queer community. Specifically, according to correspondence I've had with them, the LSPC congregation holds to a historical Christian sexual ethic, this is post, which include affirming that marriage is a lifelong covenant between one woman and one man. I fully appreciate the value that religious institutions provide to many folks. I have had many friends who attend this church, and I've met many people who work for the church. Like I've heard people say in support of the church is full of nice people. But being nice isn't the same as being kind, and discriminating against a group of people simply for who they love is neither nice nor kind. By allowing the LSPC to continually rent space for a school, the LSC and principal are allowing the church to grow and spread its reach across our community. A school as diverse as Waters should not be the spiritual home of a congregation that discriminates against LGBTQ community members. I'm fully aware there's a legal precedent around renting public spaces to churches, and I know the church is entitled to its beliefs as guaranteed by the freedom of speech. Our school community is also entitled to its beliefs, and I believe the best way to protect some of our most vulnerable students is to close the school to rentals to anyone outside of the school community on the weekends. The LSPC has the right to discriminate against my queer friends, but Waters doesn't need to be its fault. Please vote no to renewing the LSPC contract.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We have a few comments from individuals who are not able to attend tonight. I'm going to note those for the record. First was from Alicia Pedersen. She wrote in encouraging us not to sever the relationship and the lease with Lincoln Square Presbyterian, as did Nicole and Patrick Fisher. Finally, there was an email comment from Jacqueline and Sean Gaines, who expressed agreement with the previous commenters who we heard from in person. Would you like to make it?
Yes, please. My name is Brenna Moss, and I am a future parent. Well, I am a parent of 2 future students of Waters. And we just moved into the neighborhood about 2 years ago. And one of the things that was a huge selling point for this neighborhood was this wonderful school. And even walking through the hallways tonight, I was so impressed by all the artwork, specifically the beautiful artwork celebrating, remembering, for trying to Remembrance Day, and what a beautiful, welcoming, inclusive climate this is for all students and all families. And so when I started to learn about the partnership with the church with such discriminatory beliefs, and knowing that those beliefs are being shared and spread within such a safe space, or should be a safe, inclusive space, it really unsettled me, because there's a difference of free speech and hate speech, and it's a challenging line that I know a lot of people are struggling with. But I think in the case of a public school with tax dollars, we have to be the pinnacle of inclusivity and of students being in a safe, inviting, welcoming environment for themselves and for their family, no matter what that is. And in this case, by allowing in groups that discourage or discriminate against those values that I believe Waters has, and I believe that most of us in this room have, it's a very dangerous partnership. And so I urge you to reconsider. I know how funding works. I know it's probably a considerate loss of funding if we do sever this partnership, but I think it's important that Waters, as a community, as a staff, as an LSC board, that we are able to vote with our dollars and put our money where our mouth is, and really make a statement for the students and the families of this school that all are welcome here, all are safe here, and all are celebrated here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our public comment section. And we're going to move on to new business. Item A, again, as I mentioned, is somewhat related to the topic at hand. So to set the table for this item for the members of the LSC, upon receiving Ms. Farrell's comment over a month ago at this point, Mr. Akowski engaged with real estate at central office
Yeah, the real estate office.
about the issue, and we learned a couple of things. The first thing we learned is why this item is on our agenda, which is that CPS likes these kind of leasing arrangements to be approved by the LSC. Something that I want to note here is that approval or disapproval tonight on these items doesn't really matter, because these lease agreements are signed throughout the school year. We don't really have the power to break an existing lease. Is that accurate?
I don't know that that's accurate. It is supposed to be ratified by the LSC. So
There's a signed agreement with Chicago Public Schools. I don't know if our disapproval triggers them to attempt to sever, although I don't.
I mean, the ultimate licensor is the district itself. I mean, we're not a separate legal entity from CPS.
And if they're in here more than 10 times a year, then they have do they have an agreement for extended use, or do they have a short term?
It's through August.
August. Yeah. So everybody saw the agreement. I think Mr. Akowski sent that out to everyone. It's long and detailed.
When was that sent out? I saw the right at school contract. I didn't see that.
Yeah, maybe it would be
A couple weeks ago.
3 or 4 weeks ago.
What is the current term of the lease?
through August.
Yeah.
through August
Through
of
August
2024. That's what's already been signed, already exists, is the
That's
lease they're currently using.
We were, neither Mr. Rakowski nor I were aware that, CPS likes the LSCs to ratify these agreements, so that's on us for not knowing that. So we will add that to our institutional memory going forward and ratify these, going forward. And we're doing it sort of in arrears.
Got it. I would like to say that even if our vote does not have a binding legal effect, I would not say that it does not matter.
I
Sure.
agree. I think the voice of the LSC matters a lot, as it's public record. I also wonder, and I admit I did not read all the pages of the agreement in detail, if there are any terms, there usually are in contracts, around any like behavior or actions that come into conflict with the institution, in this case CPS's way of doing things or values. Again, I did not read the contract.
So
closely.
I think that brings me to sort of the second point, which was, and Mr. Rakowski shared this with you all, of the message that we received from the central office, the real estate department, where they very clearly encouraged us not to take action to sever or non-renew this agreement, because that would qualify as a religious liberty civil rights violation. If we, as Waters Elementary, as Chicago Public Schools, are opening our facility up for the use of third parties, we can't pick and choose who those third parties are based on whose views we like and whose religion we like and don't like. So given that we are in a situation, this relationship has existed for 10 years plus at this point, where we decided to open the school up for third party use. Choosing now to say, no, we don't like what you believe, you're not welcome anymore, would be discriminatory, would be a civil rights violation. So as a legal matter, I agree with that statement from central office. I would strongly encourage us to follow that guidance.
Yeah, it was my understanding that it leaves us liable as a school
Absolutely.
with, and so at least that's what it looked like from all of the paperwork that we were getting, which is that we are essentially, that we are the ones that end up becoming the discriminators.
We would be the discriminator, yes.
I want to actually point something out too, then I'll pass it up to Jack, who's been sitting there with his hand raised for a little bit.
Sorry.
It is, that assessment is only based on the facts presented at that. So if there's additional information that comes or things that are submitted through complaints or different things like that, this is not, if forever in the future, there is some kind of approval. If there is a violation, there is a mechanism to determine.
But, sorry, Jack. you
I would
go
like to
ahead.
comment that very few students do know about the contract between us and the church. And even fewer know about the use of the church towards the community and towards the LGBT community. Also, there are many resources for kids who are part of the tech community, including the GSA, right? There are fundraisers that GSA has, and it's like a whole club. Our school is very supportive, and if necessary, we can inform the GSA about these things that are happening, and the rest of the student body. But right now, as we speak, very few students do know about this contract and about the research.
Sweet. In the public comments, the idea of public space was mentioned, how we're using taxpayer dollars and public dollars to support certain ideas. And I think that's where it's the most important place to protect all speech is the public space, because that is specifically the government allowing or disallowing things. And so whether we support the ideas or not, I don't think that's really the issue here. I think the issue is renewing a lease based on beliefs in a public space like this is, I think, the first amendment issue. That's how I see it.
Have there been, I've heard evidence, or maybe evidence, I've heard evidence of the beliefs. Do we have record of any action
the beliefs matter. I'm not trying to
Not,
dispel that,
not,
but
not that I'm aware of, or you're aware of, but as far as I understand, the church stands accused of believing in a traditional Christian sexual ethic, and that's it.
We've been discriminated against by them.
thank you for sharing that.
So based on what we said, see, with the contract and whatnot, what kind of parameters are we allowed to institute for all third-party vendors?
In my opinion, the only appropriate, like, the appropriate solution is all or nothing. Like, either you allow it or you don't.
Well, I'm not saying
We
that. What I'm
shouldn't.
saying is if we continue renting to third party, what kind of parameters place
Right.
on that?
Like,
I
Can we
don't think we can
restrict
place
that?
parameters around, like, what your belief system is. Like, if you're gonna rent out to.
No,
No,
I think what I'm trying to get
I'm not
is,
quite
like,
sure
so
what
some
you're
of the public comments were things like about advertising, about
Yeah.
explicitly stating that water school doesn't endorse such and such belief. Not saying that it shouldn't exist, but just saying that the
Right,
school doesn't
I'm
officially
sorry, yeah, I understand.
align with these beliefs. So if
So
I'm
that
correct, I
when
think
they
that's what
arrive,
it might
they
be.
put whatever they want. When they leave, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
That's.
I don't believe, I know there was one of the comments, who wasn't in attendance, mentioned that, and I don't believe that the church has permanent advertising on school property,
I haven't seen that.
one of our cases.
certainly not in the building.
It's not in the building. I think it was, I think the sandwich boards that they put out.
They put the sandwich boards out on Sundays.
Those are on public, those are on the parkways. Those aren't even on waters.
I mean, I don't remember exactly what, I
Anyway.
just remember sort of seeing. them
So that,
one
that's
day.
my understanding, that's what they do, is they put those boards out on Sunday so that people know where they are. basically.
Based on what you're saying, I think you could put parameters that no third party can advertise within the school, right? You could have things that state it does not extend beyond
Yeah,
Sunday, Saturday, after school use.
sure.
That would probably fall after a contract renewal. I don't think you can
You
come
can't
back now and
No.
change the terms
Well,
of the
Because
agreement.
we don't negotiate the contract, right? Central office.
Yeah, but there's nothing in the contract saying that they have the right to advertise with it.
Right, I
In
think
fact,
that's
it's
probably
pretty clear
already
they can't.
covered by the contract as it stands, although I'm not aware, so I'm not sure.
It would seem like something like where the signs go could easily be discussed with church leadership. You know, and you have a functional relationship, contractual agreement with the church. So certain issues like that wouldn't have to be changing the contract, you know, we could simply have a conversation.
Is there a better place for them? Is there an objection to, they put boards at the corner of Wilson and Maple and Clearboard?
They're also on the playground and the parking lot. The park outside.
Okay, sort of direct people into the building where they're holding their servants.
Would you, I don't mean to interrupt.
So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to stop you, but this is for the LSC
It's
to
on social
discuss.
media as well, but they do a lot of.
This is for the LSC to
Okay,
discuss, and
I
I
got it.
ask that you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. I
So
mean,
are they,
it's-
as a third party, they're allowed to use the waters on the street in their advertising media? I don't know.
they indicate that this is where they meet. They don't use their logos or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the separation issue often comes down to endorsement and where you see an appearance that the school is endorsing a particular religious organization is where you get in trouble. There was some discussion about that we would be discriminating to, breaking their lease would be one thing, right? We're under a contract with the church. But I think the case law is a little more nuanced in terms of whether churches have to be permitted or if things were not renewed in August of 2024.
I
It's
think,
not necessarily welcoming or asking for a lawsuit.
yeah, in my opinion, I think a non-renewal would be pretty equivalent, but legally.
Well, the problem lies in the reason why we would not renew.
Right.
That's where you get into the nuance, because if the reason that we're giving is based on their particular belief system, then we're opening ourselves up to libel. And And keep in mind that it's the school that is liable, not Chicago Public Schools, and it is us directly as the local school council. So we have to it's something to keep in mind.
Right. But it is the school's decision, and there are many reasons why you could choose not to renew these. It wouldn't have to be.
Except we have this matter of public record right here.
Right.
That says it's very much about this issue, right? So that's like,
If we non-renew
that.
in next summer after this meeting, it will not look good.
Well, I think it would depend. If we chose not to renew any lease for any reason,
That's different.
that would be different.
That would include rated schools. We would have been after school care.
Right, the
Right,
school
it's
does
under a slightly
include
different
the
contract.
direct student activity. So there are some lines that could be, drawn in there.
Let's just say, what we're talking about doing here is finding a legal loophole to discriminate.
Also, I'd like non-renewal is not the discussion here. That's the discussion for next summer, which could be entirely new council because everyone's term is up at the
That
end
is
of
true.
June.
Oh, that's
So I
Maybe
would
some
like to
people
save
sit
that for, maybe these people would like to run and talk about it then. So save that for them. The issue tonight is, are we ratifying this contract or not?
So I guess I would just like to share or say, if we ratify this contract, which is already in effect, the church will continue to meet here through August 24th. If we choose not to give our seal of approval to a contract that is essentially already in effect, my hypothesis is we'll get sued and lose, and the church will continue to meet here until August of 24th, which isn't to say that the discussion isn't worth having and that the arguments against it aren't valid. Both of those things I think can be true at the same time. And so while I think some of us or many of us or even all of us, doesn't matter, they agree with the comments that were voiced, I don't think, let me rephrase. I think that in terms of this exact agenda item today, our hands are pretty tied, which isn't to say that this is not an issue that is worth continuing to discuss and pursue and to advocate for change.
Just to step back a bit, so my understanding is our ratification or not ratification it's going to have zero effect on whether or not the contract stays in place. So I don't see how there's possibly any grounds for a lawsuit that's saying that we
I'm not
have
sure
an
that's
LSC like.
yeah.
like-
I'm not sure that's true. I think that if our vote against it couldn't have a direct negative consequence on the school of the district, we wouldn't have been told by the office, the real estate office, that it would cause significant problems. They would have said, do whatever you want, we don't care.
I think if we vote to not ratify this, we would call up the real estate office tomorrow and say, hey, we're not approving this lease. What should we do about it? Already signed. I don't really know what the next step would be. Honestly.
Will there have to be like any budget cuts made because of not signing this thing?
If that revenue stream stopped today, I mean,
If it's paid on a monthly basis.
Okay. but
The
it's not-
contract altogether is about $30,000.
Okay, and that's $30,000 if we take it away from students. then. So for something that we would want to get for the students, so say we, next year, there were 3 new computers. Yeah. That's 3 classrooms of students that would not have the technology to be able to learn. And to me personally, and most other students in this school, I think it's more important that students are able to learn. And even most students don't even know about the contract in the first place. So I think that I think that we're definitely better off. I totally agree with all the opinions that are voiced here, but I think that it's just that we're discriminated in both ways if we sign the contract or if we don't.
I agree with a lot of what you say, Jack, but I do think there does need to be a point made that there isn't like some monetary threshold that would make discrimination. Right? Like it wouldn't be like, even if the contract didn't make any money or if it was worth 3 times what it is, that's the value of the contract in terms of, finances is kind of irrelevant if there is actually discrimination.
Yeah.
So one question, I guess, is do we need more time to talk with real estate before making any decision? Find out that if we decide to disagree with it, what are the next steps?
Before answering that question. I actually have a question. You said there's mechanisms in place within the contract that could essentially sever the contract. What are those mechanisms? Because that, I'd be interested to know what those are.
They're breaking the terms of their contract.
Like,
I mean, it could be anything it could be anything from, paying rent late to violating board policy, so.
violating board policies. So if they do something that violates board policy, then the contract can be severed at that point. And a lot of board policy has protections in place for the LGBTQ. I'm sorry.
Again, I don't think they stand accused of doing anything that would violate policy.
Got it.
Right? Discrimination in the sense that it's been used by the commenters against, like, this church won't celebrate a same-sex wedding or certain other things that pertain to the rights and sacraments of the church. Like, they also require you to, like, believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior if you're going to join the church too. So, like, you got to agree with their religious positions if you're going to join the church and participate in its rights. So, like, that doesn't seem like, in my book, that doesn't count.
Okay.
Now, other people might have different opinions, but I think as a legal matter, at least what we've heard so far, what they stand accused of does not rise to that threshold.
So for me, it just comes down to, we are a public body. This is a public space we're talking about. We're specifically talking about what is affect a government body saying that certain views are not allowed in certain public spaces. I'm not comfortable with that. I believe that is not supporting the First Amendment, which I think comes down to is essential. And so that's my big issue with the situation.
I think that I agree almost entirely.
Yeah.
I think that there are views that would be seen by the entire population as so repugnant that we would not rent that public space. We wouldn't rent space to the KKK.
Right.
We wouldn't rent space to the Nazis, right? I agree with Stuart, however, that a church saying that you must adhere to its beliefs, whether we in this room agree or disagree with those beliefs, a church saying you must agree with those beliefs to be a part of the church in the current understanding of separation of church and state as it exists in this country does not allow us as a public body to deny them the use of this space.
One of the commenters used the term litmus test, and that's exactly the kind of thing that you can't do as a public body. You can't have a litmus test where you say, these beliefs are acceptable, these religious beliefs are acceptable, these religious beliefs are not acceptable.
Which would have been true whether that commenter said it out loud or not.
Yes.
So I think at this time, given the state of the contract, given where we're at in the year, given the fact that, it's not the 30 grand, it's what would happen to this school if we broke the contract. I think that as of now, in terms of ratifying this lease that's already in effect, I unfortunately will vote yes. I don't think we have a choice, which doesn't mean that we shouldn't advocate for that to change for next year or the next year or as long as it takes. So I move that we call this to question.
I second.
Before we,
I move that we vote on this item.
all right, so Dan's made a motion to approve can I ask a question? Do we want to do these by roll call for voice vote?
Yeah.
Yes. Roll call?
I'm fine.
Was there,
Either way.
is it worth having any further discussion? I think it is still unclear to me what our ratification means. I find that an interesting question to pose to whatever office gave us any insight into
I did find
where we are.
in the contract actually does say that the contract is subject to ratification of the LSC.
I think we should treat it as a not voting to not approve would be an attempt to turn. That's how I.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I would view this as an attempt to terminate the contract if we were to vote no. I think that's how we would bring it to real estate.
Which they decide.
What else could it mean?
Nathan, is your point that like, they're already using it, we haven't ratified yet, but one more month?
I happen to agree with you on that. I'd like to have a few more questions answered. I think Mark brought up some good points. Potentially for legal to answer. At least we come into it with a little more information.
What
I
specifically do
don't
you feel like we
disagree. I don't
know?
disagree that I also feel like we're in the middle of a signed agreement. And it is what it is at this point. But even moving forward for next year's school council or anyone who happens to be reelected, I think the information that we learn now would be beneficial. So
So specifically, what do we feel like we don't know?
you were asking about the
Like parameters.
the parameters
Use.
of use and then what goes into that agreement. I actually don't know. I didn't read through the agreement. Couldn't find it. Sorry. I'm sure you sent it. So I'd like to learn more about it. Learn more about the parameters of use, what type of contract they have. Not saying that my vote would change. I agree with the fact that we're there. So, but I don't see any harm in waiting another month to actually vote on the matter.
I have one more thing to add that I feel like is potentially what we don't know. Sorry, I need to catch up on notes while also talking. I feel like in other institutions and corporations, when there is an allegation of discrimination, that usually leads to an investigation, and then decisions are made after that. And so I don't know. I'm hearing that there are allegations of discrimination. Our job as the LSC is not to do the investigation. It should be, in my opinion, and maybe this, I don't know if this is factual or not, to elevate that for CPS, which it sounds like the first step has been taken to determine if there needs to be an investigation or not.
My understanding, Mr. Rakowski, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the allegations as they are were delivered to central office. And the comment that we received from central office in response to this had those allegations in hand.
Had those
And-
allegations
and
what?
So that, I
In
refer
hand.
back to my
Okay,
previous
thank you.
point that the accusation is that they hold certain beliefs and restrict membership and restricts, the access to the rights of the church or the sacraments of the church. Right? That's the allegation. As far as I know, that's what I'm aware of.
But I think what she's saying is the allegations were, did we ask the right question? Because we didn't ask for an investigation, we asked other questions. I wasn't there, I don't know exactly.
Well,
the
it's really,
questions, but
I mean,
like, that's
it's really like three different offices.
Right.
And one that's kind of frustrating things, like the real estate office that handles the contract, and a lot of hard ethical issues. So, I think, basically, I don't want to pretend to be a lawyer, so I just said everything. And then that was the guidance that we got from that. In terms of some of the things I think Mr. Hunter's talking about, like explicit statements of, non-affiliation and to do sandwich board those. I think those are conversations and things that we can outline in there. There's nothing in this contract that says, they're paying for the right to put something in a certain place or paying for the right to do this. It's literally just the rooms and parking spaces. So I think those are within.
I don't think like the location of the sandwich boards is reason to like go and vote on this.
Well, do we know if there's an open investigation?
My understanding is that the central office was aware of some complaints, assessed them, and this was the feedback we got in response. that there is nothing that they're aware of that rises to the level of discrimination that would violate police or CPS policy.
I'm also not a lawyer, so make sure we throw that in the
Noted.
very much not. However, one thing I do know is that, let's say they did break the terms of the lease, or they did something that was actively discriminatory, or violated the terms. If we don't have a ratified lease, that doesn't count as breaking the lease. And so I guess the only difference in ratifying it now is to have a lease in effect where if the terms were then broken, they are breaking the terms of a ratified lease, as opposed to not.
So what you're saying is we need to vote on the ratified lease in order to have the.
You can't
And so-
break the terms of a lease that doesn't exist.
So that we can hold, there could be an
I
accountability.
think
Again,
that's-
not a lawyer, but they've been operating here without a lease for years, so de facto, like, doesn't even,
Hey,
you know.
I
hey,
don't think there's any
I don't think there's any
circumstance where
sort
they
of-
would, anyone would believe that there's not an active lease.
yes.
I think
Exactly.
it's valuable because what I've heard is that many of us may feel one way and have strong opinions on the matter, but feel like if we vote against it, we would be somehow inviting a lawsuit or guaranteeing a lawsuit, in your words. And that question, for me, seems very important for central office to answer. It's in very clear language what the impacts of ratification are, whether the LSC's vote on this issue has any significant impact at all.
I mean,
If it's going to prevent people from their mind.
I wouldn't be opposed to asking those questions.
I just got this.
I just want to say something that one of the public comments said that by having the church in the school that we're endorsing them, and I would have to say that is absolutely not true. We have a rental space, we're renting to them. I am not a Christian. I'm not a big fan of churches, but you know what? That's not what the First Amendment says. We have opened the space, it's available. So I'm not going to tell them where they can go. And I also think that, you know, this can go with many different ways with many different groups. This is the way it's been with this group, but there could be other groups renting where, again, it's not that they're the clan, but there's something that, you know, it's where it's questionable. And it's not exactly maybe the water's value, but we can't say they can't rent the space when we're having everything open. If we want to cut off rentals, again, that's something to discuss as a council, but it doesn't have to happen today. And I don't see that as a reason to delay the vote, especially because we already have a motion. And I don't think we can not do the procedure that we're going to.
I think use up discussion after the
Okay.
second of the motion. So,
Was the motion seconded?
Yeah, I seconded.
like I'm not worried about losing $30,000. I'm not worried about a lawsuit or libel. That's not my particular concern. My particular concern is I don't feel it's right to limit the speech of someone or a group because it cuts both ways. First Amendment cuts every way. And I know I have speech that I want protected, and so I want all speech to be protected, and I feel that's important. And I know quite certain that religions are protected under the First Amendment. It is what it is, and I feel it's important to not as a back to the, I mean, it's a governmental body to not try to then limit that speech. I feel is the most important thing here. It's not about the consequences or the other nuances. I just feel it's a straight up First Amendment issue, and that's how I feel.
It's also like, we have a First Amendment, and I think it's important to think about why. And like Jason just said, it's to protect everybody, it's to protect minority groups, it's to protect people with disfavored opinions, to protect them from discrimination. And like inclusion, we talk a lot about inclusion at the school and welcoming. Is it welcoming to say we want to kick this group of people out of the school? They're not welcome here? Like, that's not inclusive. That's not welcome. It's not inclusive to only include people that share your worldview. The hard part about inclusion is to include people who you disagree with and to welcome them into your public space with you and to be friends with them, kind to them. Even if you disagree with them on matters of deep moral import, That is why we have the First Amendment. That is why we have a 14th Amendment. That is why we have a pluralistic society in this country, and it's incumbent on us to maintain that. And I think that's important. There's a reason why these legal things are this.
I want to say, and that I think we should move on. I respectfully disagree. I think the First Amendment absolutely protects their right to say whatever they want to say. It does not necessarily mean that it's the right thing for us to take their money so they can say it here. They absolutely have the right to say whatever they want. And we have a 14th Amendment, which prevents us, which is what would prevent us from renting space with the way, because we have decided as a nation that discriminating on the basis of race trumps someone's right to say what they want to say in a public space. And as a district, we wouldn't allow what this church has to say. We would not allow a teacher to say in a classroom during school time. So for me, I absolutely respect both of your opinions. I think I just disagree. I don't think it's a First Amendment issue. I think it is a legal contract liability issue. That all being said, we're not at a point yet in this country where, unfortunately, discriminating against the queer community is seen as bad, as wrong as discriminating against people of color. I think we will get there. We're not there yet. I think that's why I called the motion, because I don't think there's anything for us to do to break this in this moment. I think it will cause us more trouble than it's worth. I don't think it will accomplish anything that those of us who might be inclined to vote no want to accomplish. Which is, again, not a reason to say that we should necessarily do the lease, or at least to anyone, or that we shouldn't advocate to the real estate office that we shouldn't renew this lease because of the content of this which is being said in our school. But I don't think we're going to win that fight today.
I would say just,
I would like to just try to get to a conclusion. Is there anybody else that would like to speak after Nathan?
all of this, legal theorizing, I think runs the risk of clouding what I have heard is a pretty important issue. Mr. Bukowski raised, and these ideas of how to make clear to the student body that while this group that leases the gym on Sundays may feel very strongly about certain issues, those are not issues held by the school, held by the district, held by our students, or some students were. But I think ways that we can make the principles of the school clear and evident to the student body if they're worth.
Or to anyone who walks in the door on any day of the week.
All right, I'd like to bring the issue to a vote, and we're gonna, well, the motion is solely for the Presbyterian Church contract. We'll do the school separately, and I'd like to go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Who's do the actual motion was?
The motion is to approve the Lincoln Square Presbyterian Church lease agreement for the 23-24 school year. So we'll do a roll call vote on this. Dan Morris.
Aye.
Liz Chandra.
Aye.
Jason Leader.
Aye.
Nathan Hunter.
I'm gonna abstain.
Brian Stockmaster.
Can you abstain?
Stuart Lang. Aye. Katie Carey. Is absent. Kristen Quinn.
Abstain.
Peggy Delish.
Aye.
Aaron Soto.
Aye.
Mark Williams.
Abstain.
Peter Rakowski.
Aye.
Beth McNally.
Aye.
Kristen, what was the count?
6, 7, 8 ayes and 4 abstains.
Motion passes.
Passes.
All right, thank you everyone for your discussion, and thank you to the commenters.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We also have a lease agreement with Vita School for after-school services. That's a slightly different contract, but it also requires, LSC approval. Does anybody have questions about this? Mr. Yudkowsky sent out the contract today. It's a different contract. This is not like a third-party use. This is like, out-of-school time services.
And this is for the after school, but this is not for the summer.
We have a motion to approve.
No move.
Second.
I believe you can do a voice vote here. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who made the first vote. Thank you very much.
Jen.
Jen.
Seconded.
Great.
Okay. Budget approvals, Mr. Yudkowsky, would you like to run through what we're doing?
Sure. So the reason this is possible is because when we had to approve the budget back in, it was that May, we had a pretty substantial deficit, and it basically got the district into giving us more money just to break even. Since that point, we had a lot of major changes in staffing. We're still on student-based budgeting. Certain teacher salaries are higher than others, and we had some unfortunate circumstances that led to teachers changing and not being part of Waters anymore too. But so that now is been processed, and so we have funds available to use that we didn't think we would have back in May. So the first issue on the budget approvals is to move. We were originally going to pay for the 6th essentials teacher out of fundraising dollars, 124, but we have enough in student-based budgeting to pay for it out of student-based budgeting instead. The reason to do that is, well, the main reason would be student-based budgeting is only for that fiscal year, so the district will literally take it back from you if you don't spend it. So this will max us out on SBB. We don't have to worry about the district taking any money from us at the end of the year if we don't spend it. That's why we would open the early childhood out of 124 instead. We don't have a full school year left. We need to use the full funds to open the position. So if we do fill the position, there's, I guess basically what I'm saying is we're not going to go through all of that. We want to be able to get back what we don't use. So that's why we would pay for that out of 124. And then the middle budget proposal is for a program called Between Friends that used to be at Waters pre-COVID. Ms. Bouch has some experience with it. It's a little bit different. We've had the Chicago Women's Health Center come here and do programming for health ed and sex ed for our middle school kids. This is a little bit less about anatomy, but it's more about relationships and things like that. Maggie, if you want to talk about the program a little bit.
Yeah, the organization came out of safe like sexual relationships, safe romantic relationships, advocating against abuse and giving the kids tools to make healthy choices. And, but it's expanded to include gender stereotypes, gender inclusivity, friendships, safe friendships, just making positive choices. Consent is a huge part of it. So it's grade level appropriate. We had in the past, it's wonderful people come out and work with it. They're younger than a lot of teachers, so I think it really helps the kids see somebody who's younger working with them, and that partnership it was always a positive. We always got positive feedback from it. So it'd be great to see it back.
Thank you. The early childhood TA, is that targeting a particular classroom or grade level?
Probably kindergarten. Yeah, it's been a tough go from the beginning of the kindergarten just to help. I mean, in general, it would be nice to just have that all the time. In the previous school, we just had it.
Will this person like rotate classrooms or?
Yeah, depending on, needs. I mean, obviously we have operational things going on, but it would be dedicated to that. We wouldn't pull them to, cover a seat if they were out or something. It would be dedicated to really being a TA for that early childhood for today. If we could get three, we get three.
We can do these in passage. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve all three of these budget transfers as stated in the agenda?
So moved.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, thank you very much. That concludes new business. Mr. Akowski, take it away.
Sure. All right, so I'll just go through the principal's report. One of the highlights was we had a beginning of the year rigor walk. The network office came and went through mostly our 3rd through 5th classrooms. Some of the feedback they had was high levels of student engagement, high levels of accessibility for our Spanish-speaking newcomers. As you guys know, we have a fair amount of asylum seekers at Waters. So it's great to see them being put in a situation to succeed, and also just really strong practices like the claim evidence reasoning that you see, particularly at 5th grade. Just approaching different things like not only science, but also, 5th grade did their 3 Sisters project a couple of weeks ago. The reason I want to highlight that is because when we were on the Dunes trip actually this year with the 6th graders, they do this kind of role playing thing. There's like a Potawatomi individual, then there's like a bear, a trapper and things like that. But one of the people at the Dunes asked the kids, like, so have you ever heard of the 3 Sisters? And because they had all done it in 5th grade, they all jumped up and started shouting out like squash, corn, blah, blah, blah. It was a great moment to see, like, that really stuck with them, and they knew exactly what they were talking about, and it was like a year later. So I just think the more experiences we have with those types of things, the better. We had a lot of teachers do different PD over the last month. Ms. Mellick went to the Arts Summit. We had 4 different teachers go to Arts PD on a Saturday for non-arts teachers. We did ukulele and some dance sessions. We also had a chance to send, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our early childhood teachers to those of you guys you hear a lot about multisensory, particularly reading. What's a little bit further behind is multisensory teaching in math. So we were able to send 5 teachers to do a session. It's actually a virtual session on something called Wooden Math, which is wooden is like WOODIN, not wooden as a made of wood. Is his name. Just multisensory ways of teaching that, because it's, say we're multisensory organisms, so that's the best way to teach our kids. We also had a lot of fundraisers, different things going on. Jack mentioned the GSA fundraiser we had right before the break. We also went to Rush Park right before Halloween. This is just a note too for the asylum seekers, is that the flow has slowed down for the winter months, but we're expecting it's probably going to pick back up in the spring. So there's only about 3 to 5 buses coming into Chicago a day now, whereas in the peak they've been about 10 or 15. As some of you guys know, the Broadway Armory is a shelter now. There's no more Park District programming being run out of it. But so there's a little bit of a lull we expect for the winter, but that is probably going to start picking back up again in the spring. So we can expect more asylum seekers instead of, this is it. We've had a lot of different parent engagement things going on, parent coffees with MTSS. We had a school tour, state of the school, Eco Art Fest. Joe was super bummed in this because I had to get this taken care of. But it looks awesome. Everything is still up there if you guys want to check it out. Ms. Lilly has also arranged to provide grief support for students who suffered a death in the family recently. So the last 1 to 2 years through a program called Willow House. So it's a small group to provide grief counseling for them. So it's a nice program that those kids will be able to get some additional support through. Ms. Palker started as our pre-K miscellaneous employee. We have a candidate identified to replace Ms. Garcia, who became a CCA for the school assistant position. So we're just waiting for onboarding for that. And we also have a candidate to fill Mr. Prado's position. So as you guys know, that he had to go on leave for the semester. So we have somebody is one of our middle school diverse learner teachers. So somebody to step in take over his case though, so he's able to get that actually. The person happens to live in the Watersback, so that's nice. All right, you guys have any questions about council report?
Did we, end up hiring a teacher cadre?
We did, yeah, that's Ms. Prisakowski. And then because it's CPS, the central office gave us a centrally funded cadre 2 days later after we started. With no notice, but I'm not complaining.
So do we have
That's
two?
great. It's made it. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
two right now.
Who's the second?
Mr. Rashid. So Rashid, which is really handy because he's from Yemen and we had a newcomer student come in, speaks only Arabic. I got a chance to hang out with her a little bit too, but
It's great to hear.
yeah, came in really, yeah, it's made things so much better because, just operationally, if we have teachers out, things happen. It just makes it so much easier for kids to get the school day that they expected. Makes a huge difference. It's okay to have subs, but it's a pretty significant problem. That subs instead of the regular teachers in the building too. So yes, that's Miss P. Good and short hair.
Are there any CIWP updates?
Yeah, I mean, I think the major one is we have the curriculum picked out. So that'll be something that we work on. I was hoping to be able to have some spending items for that today, but still waiting on some invoices and stuff like that. So there'll be more of that coming down the line. And then a lot of the PD from October 27th had to do with newcomers and some of the language standards in the second priority. So, learning objectives that include language support for those kiddos.
I'm sorry if you said this, but do we have any open staffing vacancies right now?
The only, let's see, open pending onboarding, but we haven't done that with time, so.
That's good.
So the lunchroom position was it?
Well, that's a
That's
separate function. Yeah.
How are we doing there?
We are waiting to hear if someone that's wanted to email. We don't get an email, and it's still open. It's in the spring, which means they don't come in until next year.
I do want to just put in a quick plug for Mark because the lunchroom's been rocking it this year, especially with the second line being open, has made it much smoother and the kids have much more time.
My kids ain't very few lunch.
Any more questions for Mr. Rakowski?
Yeah. What grades are the wooden math targeted for?
That PD was specifically K2. So let's see. Here we have. It was Ryska, Famisan, Pornea, Walsh, and Ostidia.
Okay, let's move on. Thanks, Mr. Rakowski. Chair report, I don't have anything to add. I did just want to mention or note that there are so many cool things that go on at the school, and I want to thank everybody that has participated in making it happen. Eco Art Fest obviously was very cool. Still see it out there. And the Dia de los Muertos event and the remembrance for Ms. Ramos was really wonderful. So I just wanted to note that I really appreciated that. It's great to see all the great stuff going on at the school. Was already noted this is a LSC election year. Nominations are open. They're due in February. Yeah. And that's it for me. Jack?
One thing I would just like to point out that, no students have directly, filled out a form about something about how to feel unsafe in a school environment. I'm planning on opening up the form to, I believe, probably 4 through 8, or now it's just for 7 and 8. But they can get in a couple more grades inside of there, because I don't know, I just feel like to have more people responding would be great instead of that. Okay, just talk about here. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Jack.
I have a question, Jack. I remember during our last meeting, you brought up some student feedback about like the transition back into the school building. after time outside. Has anything evolved with that?
I think it's very smooth. I think that it all happens in about 2 minutes to get into the building, and the lunch breaks open about a minute after that. So I would say that 95% of the time, every single student who wants food is able to get their food with at least 15 minutes left of their lunchtime to be able to eat their lunch and lunch the day. There was a breakfast, something about breakfast that I heard from the students, about how they were going to get breakfast, that they came at like 8:28, and they said lunch, and there's something breakfast that's being put away. They then asked for one and were denied a breakfast, which was confusing. I have not fact checked this. This is something that I have heard from the students. Yeah.
Mr. Lynn, anything?
Well, it's to me,
Here to
but
come.
I haven't heard that, but the staff has been instructed to give them, even if it's 10 o'clock, so to give them a breakfast. So whether they're just coming in the building or they're coming late, I will show the health teacher over that, so that they will send them down.
I'm not sure how they were gonna have lunch. I'm not sure if they were gonna have lunch. I doubt that it was from, like, just the staff who, are working in food prep. I think that it was probably a, teacher who told the students that it was not like.
And they may not know, so I'll send an email out tomorrow. In regards to lunch, thank you for that information. Put it in reference, they have 20 minutes for lunch. That means all students are being served in approximately 5 minutes, so.
What was that was that change? Like, what happened with that change between lessons?
In the lunch service?
Yeah.
Well, the lunch service really hasn't changed. It's more of the getting the students to cooperate to come back. It's the biggest change that happened. The difference between last year and this year was that we now have 3 people, so we can actually open up the second line. Most of last year we only had 2, so there was no way to open up the second line because we really need 4 to run 2 lines, but we just.
So mostly the biggest difference then from the October meeting to this meeting is the students getting together.
And I think the weather's.
Yeah.
I think that.
They want to get inside, so. We'll see
This
how
spring we'll hear another, it'll go back down.
We will see how spring.
All right, let's move on to principal evaluation. Kristen, you had a
Yeah,
thing for us here.
yes, I have a few updates to share about principal evaluation. You all should have in front of you a 2-page document back in front with our local or our water-specific principal evaluation process. You'll remember that this is a CPS managed process and that they give us direction around what we should take into account for the evaluation, what the evaluation tool looks like, and very high level what the timeline should look like. Our role in the evaluation is to collect evidence aligned to the domains for the principal evaluation rubric and make sure that we review it and use that information to align on a set of scores for the 4 new domains, which I'll talk about in a moment, that we submit and find and create a first draft of, make sure that Principal Rutkowski has a chance to get into conversation with us if he wants to, and then submit a final evaluation at the end of May. That process, there are just a few small changes we're recommending to this process this year. The first is less of like a concrete change and more of just a, maybe it's like a behavior or habit thing that I'll be doing in our meetings, is encouraging LSC members to attend school events and meetings open to parents and community members as evidence collection. I know you are all doing that day to day. You're wearing your educator hat, your staff hat, your community member hat, your parent hat, your LSC hat. I'm also asking you to put on your principal evaluation hat so that we have like a wealth of information to consider when it comes time to sit down in May and have that meeting. So on my end, I'll be kind of plugging that more often and following through on that myself. The second thing I want to make note of is that there is a new rubric. I'm going to pass it out here. I ask that you take a look at it on your own time. But I think, and I kind of hinted at this during our last meeting, I think the new rubric is great, or the new evaluation tool. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but when I think back to our meeting last April or May, and we were trying to align on ratings, there were a lot of times when we were like, is this good here? Is this measuring the right thing? Like, is this really what matters? And when I look at this new evaluation tool, things like clarity around leading with a vision, being a change manager, the difference between like a safe school climate as it relates to like procedures and logistics and transitions versus building an inclusive environment. It's all in there. And from my perspective, it seems a little bit like more precise and easier to nail down. So I'm excited to test it out this year. From my perspective, it still includes all the stuff that the old tool did, just in a clearer way. So we're going to be looking for evidence on organizational leadership, which is really around leading on vision, mission, goals, and making sure to take the community along in that process. The community, including educators, students, staff, parents, etc. Instructional core, which is about making sure academic programming is responsive to all types of student needs, and that we're using data and evidence to adjust course along the way. Climate and culture, which is about strong relationships with families, LSC, community, students, and creating a safe and welcoming environment. And then talent, which is really about Mr. R's ability to provide strong professional learning opportunities for staff in the building. So I'll like keep bringing these back in our meetings moving forward, but I wanted to provide a quick introduction to that.
Kristen, do you know if part 2 is going to happen this year?
Yes,
basically dropped that once COVID hit.
I haven't heard a thing about it, and I know I think they're still in the process of revising whatever the future SQRP will look like. Have you heard anything?
Evaluation framework.
Yeah. I haven't seen anything, and that should have happened in November, according to the LSC resource guide and the official timeline, but I have not seen or heard anything.
Oh, and it's not going to happen for you. I'm not it's going to happen for next year.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard it.
Okay. We'll see. Questions? All right, thank you very much, Kristen.
Sure.
As always, appreciate your organization on all of this. Budget, any updates? We already covered other stuff. Do you expect to have some stuff for the math curriculum?
Yeah, for December for sure.
CWP. And already covered that as well. I had a question there too. With the selection of math curriculum, is there any interest in formalizing the search for the reading curriculum replacement as part of the CIWP? To get credit for it?
To get credit for it. Not really. I mean, yeah, no, I mean, it's just something we're gonna have to do. In terms of putting it through the CIWP, I think would just be like a layer process, like maybe, that would be good to do, I think, maybe toward the end of the year for overall within the CIWP, you know, how close we came to milestones and we pick ones that were too easy, too far off, with a general revision. Regardless, we're going to start after winter break, you know, with a selection process for the other. So I think the actual work of the process is going to be so, you know, we just kind of have to wait a little bit to get the math done and get those things in and have teachers be able to have access to PE for, you know, doing things. So, not trying to put too much on people's plate at once, just because it's, you know, it's just a lot for people to grapple with, you know, when they're, you know, teaching regular day to day anyway. And we also want it to be successful. So.
Fine and Performing Arts, Ms. McCary, did you have anything for us
Thank you.
tonight?
I do. Firstly, thank you so much to everyone who volunteered for the bar talk. That is such a difference between the abuse of person. Thank you, those of you who volunteered. I wanted to mention that it was a great success. We had a lot of people come. We changed it up, brought it back to the old days where we tried to make a multi-arts festival. It was super fun. We had all three arts featured after school. Kids were allowed to do some, or were able to choose to do some dramatic arts, some improv, which Mr. Landis we have in a real-time environment. Miss Melvin showcased her Chicago Bulls patriotic songs, which was wonderful for the kids to perform for their parents and their peers right here. And also, Miss Rubito did some explorations in ecology, some seed explorations. That was a very nice way for everyone to come together. But what we haven't talked about yet is Critter Club knocking it out of the park. And that's what I want to share. Is that what was so fun about this exhibit was it stacked field days again with the kids in charge. And so the Critter Club, quote unquote ALT of our school, actually set up all the games, ran all the prizes, ran all of the in and outs. We had a finagle with not having the space that we thought we had. They worked with it, they ran with it, they made the money, and we had teachers coming out with it. And that's the first one. So they're, and they are non-arts teachers. And that's the community that I hope these sorts of events can bring back to other schools. But we have to number one. Number two, we got Graham. And if you want to go upstairs, we have some very nice new state-of-the-art 4D art making materials on the second floor. We have our flexible plan. And so it's great. Orders are coming in, it's getting built, and soon we will have a true, beautiful storytelling 4D service. I'm opening up some sort of that. And again, that's a student-created project in our school. They did. I just go with it. They go. And then the final thing I just wanted to announce that yes, December 6th and 7th, we're having our conference. Also, we are having physical all district performances are happening right now. Not performances, they're learning for tribal. So all of that stuff is super fun, and it's a great way for all of us to come together and celebrate who we are and all of our diversity. So very happy about that short November. We're going to have out of it. That's all.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
McCary.
you.
TPLC, Ms. Soto.
We, PLC met on November 9th, and a couple of the big things that, we talked about, we're discussing the math curriculum coming and what PD might look like for that. But I think Mr. Rakowski is going to be going more data. And then the other one was our diverse learner teachers meeting with, the gen ed teachers. That was another topic, and I know Mr. Rakowski started to address that at our last professional development training, time within our PD day to, so that the teachers can meet with their co-teachers.
Questions here? BAC, do we have a BAC update?
At a regular meeting, yeah, I don't know. We didn't have anything else from Ms. Reba to really.
Okay.
It's,
Glad that they're up and running.
no, it's really nice to see.
Waters today. Hi, thank you so much.
So, good evening, and representing Waters today, this evening. So I'm Sandra Pena, I'm Vice President this year of Waters Today. I recognize I'm standing between up like us and our home, so forgive me for just a moment, I'll try to make this quick. I think, given that Walkathon was pushed out a bit because of the weather, that was an absolute success. I know Sarah did a great job, kind of recruiting the city volunteers. I'm really excited to kind of pass the baton on to others. We, as a team, had committed early in the year to hosting more community events, really with the focus on accessibility to all. And so I actually spearheaded, and to be honest, I was a little trepidatious about fielding the idea over to the team and the receptivity that we would have for the Via de Muertos community event. And I just want to share that I think the community was absolutely spectacular, very much embraced it. You know, this is something I did to a friend of last year with Mrs. Vecchione, and so it's kind of building on that. I went to Mr. Rakowski. I mean, these were two of the most important partners, I think, in making the event happen. So thank you so much for your support and dedication. So we had just an amazing turnout, and I think the opportunity to come together and really honor Mrs. Ramos as part of a bigger cultural experience was absolutely fantastic. So I want to share that. So thank you. We also, as a team, are brainstorming on kind of our next perhaps community event with accessibility, perhaps a movie night, hopefully early this winter. And the last piece is that we are, as a team, going to be kicking off big night planning. So we'll need all hands on deck, lots of volunteers. So you should see some messaging come out here pretty soon. That's all.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you for waiting. Any questions? Okay, that concludes the reports. We have a second public comment section. It's open to anybody who's here in person. Would anybody like to make a comment? Okay. Thank you very much for everybody that came this evening. It was a long meeting. I appreciate everybody for being here and participating. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
If I could ask for people's help, just holding up the chairs and putting them on the rack, that would be amazing.